Alright guys, such comic again today. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Shotzzy and Dashy on the receiving end of certain criticisms over the last 24 hours, but big updates elsewhere in the league as well. The Los Angeles Thieves guys pretty convinced they can even improve their hardpoint going into the World Championship with a new patch that they may or may not be playing on. That could certainly throw a spanner in the works of currently the best team in the Call of Duty League. Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Before we get to any of the kind of CDL stuff, this is a big update that I missed a couple of days ago in challenges, but it's definitely worthy of mentioning. And, well, I'm not really sure where this leaked from precisely, although there was some other talk about this elsewhere, that for the Challengers World Championship, they will be getting the Challengers players like some actual properly good equipment. Now, this has been a big talking point. Certainly, it was a talking point of the event in Dallas at the Credit Union of Texas Arena. I don't know why I always say it like that. But I'm in Allen, right, where the World Championship was. I don't even know if it's even called that, but I think it's something like that anyway. The events that the World Championship was last year, and this year's event was up in Allen, the OpTic event, a couple of times in a row. The Challengers matches at that tournament were played just across the road. Was it the Hilton? I don't know. There was a hotel right next door, and it might have been the Marriott. A hotel right next door, and they were playing downstairs in there. Now, there were numerous issues with that venue set up. I mean, it wasn't really a venue. Like, the power draw from all of those PCs was a challenge. And that's also another thing to keep in mind, that, like, you got tons of PCs and monitors in a room. You know, the power was needed to be prepared for that kind of power draw. And that was causing a couple of issues. But the main conversations that I had when I was in that room at the time, and it was pretty sweaty in there, but the main conversations that I had with a couple of the guys was around the quality of the PCs, right? That they were having issues with the frame rates, and, you know, because the PCs they were using for challenges were, you know, we're talking like 2019, right? We're talking old PCs. Now, to be fair, the pros have also complained a lot about this as well. I think Clayster even said that the PCs the pros are currently using for their official matches, certainly online, and, you know, they are from like the Overwatch League back in 2020, right? 2020, 2019. Like, they just brought over those PCs, and that's what they're currently using. So they're pretty outdated. They don't get the best frame rates, and, you know, it can cause stutters and some other issues as well. It's been a major issue in the European Valorant side recently. Riot literally had to pull the plug on all of their PCs and buy a whole new fleet of, you know, 4090s or whatever, because, you know, the old equipment simply wasn't up to the task. And in COD, that has been the case to a degree in the Pro League. And you can imagine that in challenges, it's even worse, right? Like, they get even worse equipment. And it's always a talking point about the quality of play, because, like, at the end of the day, everyone's on the same stuff. So you can't complain too much about it. But also, you want to be playing the game, the same game as you play in your own PC, right? The fact that, you know, these challenger players have decent PCs, you know, 2-3K PCs probably, and they play the game at a far higher quality than they play when they go to an official tournament, you know, that doesn't really feel fair. So for the COD World Championship, the Challenger side, it seems that that will be upgraded. Toronto apparently have worked with sponsors to make this happen, rather than the league providing new systems. So, you know, that's what I've heard as well, is that the equipment, certainly the PCs, I don't exactly know what else, but certainly the PCs will be upgraded. I mean, I don't know if it's going to be better than what the pros have, but, like, it might be. I don't know. Like, it's possible that the Challengers players are going to be playing on the absolute best stuff. That's my understanding anyway. And if that's true, it gets really interesting because, of course, Toronto, you know, if they're doing it themselves through sponsors and partners rather than the league doing it, I think that's making a bit of a statement, isn't it, really? So, you know, not necessarily like they're trying to criticize the league, but I think you know what I'm getting at. So intrigued to your thoughts on that in the comments. This is the piece on the hardpoint discussion that I wanted to have. These are the best KDs of the season in hardpoint. Interestingly enough, I will say, Renkor's overall KD this year is something like a 1.01. Like, it's pretty much neutral, and that may surprise you to some degree. And it is kind of surprising given the fact that his hardpoint has been and continues to be incredibly good. He's got a 1.11 hardpoint on the year, the same as Scrap. HyDra's actually at a 1.13. JoeDeceives right in the ballpark as well. But it was talked about just after the tournament out there in Dallas at DreamHack, when Scrappy was asked the question just after winning it, like, you know, could you guys get better? And the answer is probably yeah. If you look at the Lion Man cards, okay, the Lion Man cards don't tell the whole story, but, you know, let's just just think about the record that they have this season, their record in this stage in Search and Destroy was very solid. 10-4 in Search and Destroy. Their control continues to be, the best that any team is in any particular game mode in the game, I would say. They were 9-3 on that. Could have been even better, possibly, but they were 9-3. But it was their hardpoint, 10-6. Respectable, very impressive in fact, right? 10 wins out of 16, ain't bad at all. But it's still not as good as it could be. And, HyDra, certainly, Envoy and Ghosty. I know that Ghosty got loads of hill time. Maybe Envoy will feel like he could get slightly better in that game mode. But the hardpoint 10-6, that is maybe, it's still good, it's still green, it's still impressive, but it's maybe not as good as it could be. So that Scrappy was feeling anyway after the major was that actually, we can improve on that mode still. But it's always a talking point, isn't it? Because with FaZe, for example, they also improved their hardpoint. Their hardpoint was actually respectable at the end of the stage. I'll just go back and find the FaZe stuff here in a second so we can look at those numbers as well. Yeah, so their overall hardpoint record ended up 9-6. That was their big struggle point for some time. So their record overall was actually very similar, as we can see, to the Los Angeles Thieves. And, look at Cell in hardpoint, look at Simp in hardpoint, even Drazah in hardpoint, certainly on a map like Red Card, absolutely frying. 9-6 overall, respectable enough, very similar to Thieves. But it did feel like towards the end of the stage that while their hardpoint improved, their other game modes dropped off just that little bit. At the major, certainly when they played Thieves in the grand finals, losing a couple of search and destroys, right? Like there were a couple of they were barely losing any searches at all the entire stage. Their hardpoint then got better at the back end of the tournament, but the other game modes kind of dropped off. So that's always the point, right? If you're Thieves, if you're like, okay, brilliant, we'll just improve the hardpoint and we'll be unbeatable. It doesn't always work like that, because if you work hard on one mode, the other modes may just naturally end up suffering just a little bit. And also the key thing really to mention here is the fact that the game is changing quite dramatically. The new patch which they think they might be running, Season 4, although Envoy said yesterday they may not because the codcast is broken, therefore they might have to run Season 3.5. Who knows? I don't know. I think that Shotzzy said that on Friday is when they're going to start properly practicing again and turning the scrims on, so that's when the decision really needs to be made. Just to quickly note it, in 2025, it's 4-2 to Drazah between Scrap and Draz in terms of event wins, in terms of grand finals appearances. Sure, it goes Drazah's way, but Drazah's been around a couple of years longer than Scrappy has. Online head-to-head, 5-5. LAN head-to-head, though, stays 8-3. And in finals, after winning the most recent one, it's now 2-1 again. Scraps beat him twice at Champs. Total head-to-head is 13-8. So, we'll continue to keep this card updated, let's say, because the Scrap-Drazah rivalry is not going away anytime soon. But let's talk about some of the situation unfolding at OpTic. There were some interesting comments recently made, certainly in a video that went out last night, and from Dashy's side as well. He was, definitely causing a bit of controversy. This is one other thing as well here from Hitch. He puts together the best COD players on OpTic multiplayer. He puts together a list. So, we got Paige at the bottom. We got Roger, OpTic Update Joey. We got True Edit, who's Scump's editor. It was a pleasure to meet him out there in Dallas. And okay, we go up the list anyway. We get to Hitch. He puts himself at number 17. And then, of course, notably, Zinni wasn't very happy about getting listed here at 14th, behind Big Timer, and also behind a couple of the Halo guys, right? Behind Legends, behind Renegade. And, right now the top 4 are the 4 players they have on their COD team: Shotzzy, Dashy, Huke, and Merc. Scump is there in 5th, although, you might argue Scump should still be number 1. Karma's right there, he always will be. TP, Formal, obviously TP still plays an awful lot of Warzone. Crimsix, got Renegade, Bose, Legend, then Big T, then Zinni. So Zinni wasn't particularly happy about this placing here, because among the pros, he's even lower than some of the other guys that he's not very happy about. And Method says, look, you're forcing me into a corner here. I've simply got to come out and disrespect my teammates. But there was a couple of funny moments happening last night. Dashy put this one out there, VOD reviewing camera roll, leaking 1 gem today. I mean, look at this guy back in the day. We got the Aqua de Joe as well on the countertop. Absolute seeds. And there was some funny tweets in the replies here, like I think this one as well from Civ. Should have kept this one, hashtag in the vault. Civ doesn't tweet often. When he does, it tends to be pretty entertaining. But it also clips clips from an episode that came out where the OpTic guys were doing a bit of trivia. And, well, Shotzzy, as ever in these, highly entertaining. The comment on the capital of Canada. Of course, Dashy was sitting there with his head in his hands thinking, oh my God, like these clowns. And then some other comments as well from Shotzzy, which make it pretty clear that it's good that this guy's good at COD in terms of his career and buying more houses.
I think it's showing Zip, so.
Back tower, draws.
What the fuck?
CEO is back left.
What the fuck? Yeah, just check me out.
Merc.
Did you know that?
And methods.
Imagine being prescribed ketchup. Doctor's like, you're fine, you just need some ketchup. Yeah, I'd be eating it anyway. Don't look at me right now, right? Looking right past you, kid.
What is the capital of Canada?
Ontario.
Oh.
Please.
Incorrect.
Incorrect? Zinni. I should know this.
Oh, Zin, you don't know this? You played for Ultra.
Aren't you
You lived in Toronto, Zin.
Wait. Isn't it kitchen?
Oh, chill. Let me get it.
Is it Quebec?
Wrong.
It's Ottawa, Ontario.
That's
Hector.
correct.
No way,
These damn
Zin.
Americans! He's from there, that's bullshit.
What is the most consumed manufactured drink in the world?
Water.
Soda.
Manufactured. Condiment was once sold as medicine. Condiment.
Mayonnaise.
Dr. Pepper.
Wrong. What is Captain Price's full name?
Mike Price.
What the fuck?
It's good content as always. I do like the content where they put like the entire COD team together. Same with the game chat episodes and stuff like this as well. It's a good little battle. And look, they're getting the chemistry up running into the World Championship. That is the big talking point over the next couple of weeks, is how OpTic and others will be preparing for the big one, right? This is a big question from the CDL. Do any other teams at Champs stand a chance? I know that there's lots of optimism from the OpTic fans that maybe they could make the run. The reality is it's going to be a big challenge. I mean, this is FaZe winning Major 1 in Madrid, the beautiful trophy they had, which was kind of a confusing one because it was in Madrid. I mean, you look at this trophy and you're thinking, damn, great Toronto Major, right? The CN Tower. But yeah, no, this was in Madrid, but it was a Toronto hosted event, of course. Major 2 probably could have been a prettier trophy, but FaZe won it as well. Major 3, one of the sexiest trophies I think actually we've had in the league. It was Thieves that won that one. And then most recently, at DreamHack, another, okay, I don't know why I'm comparing trophies, doesn't really matter. The World Championship trophy used to be the best, if you guys know the pre-CDL World Championship trophy with the globe on the top. Wow, that is one of the trophies of all time at esports. And the recent CDL one, okay, it's okay, it is what it is. But that's the talking point from the league anyway. Does another team stand a chance? I think the answer is yes, but it's definitely been a 2-team league so far this season, and that is possibly unlikely to change. Although I do think that if there's any team that could make it happen, OpTic are probably the most likely outside of these ones, because you look at the standings. A Surge after their recent major. I know that OpTic last year they came top 12 then won champs, but like Surge, my opinion kind of is like, look, they had their chance. They had their chances. They made a couple of grand finals. And when push comes to shove at the end of the season, it's going to be too much. Heretics, I'm just not sure they can do it against either of these two teams over a very long series. I think it's possible that they could, win a best of 5 off them, but I just don't see it being likely that Heretics or Surge or even Toronto, because they've fallen off a bit, I just don't see any of those 3 teams winning it. Whereas OpTic, you've kind of always got to wonder that, like, well, theoretically, if you go talent for talent with those other teams that we've mentioned, and maybe that's kind of how you can read, because at the end of the day, if you're going to win champs, you're going to have to be, especially against one of these two teams, you're going to have to be unreal at search and destroy. And you're just going to have to, outfox some of these guys occasionally in the respawns. Realistically, this season, the way the trajectory is, you're never going to be like better than these teams. You're just going to have to find a way to beat them. And often that's going to be through, as I say, winning all your searches and talent. And I think if there's any team that could do that, it's probably OpTic. But I still think the chances are pretty slim. But who knows? Maybe the meta changes, the new patch update will throw a bit of a spanner in the works. Speaking of that, OpTic FaZe kind of dynamic. This is interesting, I suppose, that all of these players now are officially retired. The whole OpTic dynasty's gone. Obviously, Zuma, Clayster, Enable gone, and then Attacher's recently retired as well. an interesting comment. We never saw them play each other in a Champs Grand Final. I mean, yeah, but it's not like they were making loads of Champs Grand Finals. OpTic made one and won it, and FaZe made, with this team, 0 Champs Grand Finals, right? They did make finals against each other during especially Advanced Warfare, but still notable to look at, right, that, you know, these guys who many respects defined a generation of COD are now still here, but no longer competing as they previously were. So very much enjoyed your thoughts on all of this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.